All right, welcome back to the Copywriters podcast with your host, the world's greatest copywriting coach, David Garfinkel. David, how are you doing today?
Nathan, I'm doing okay. How about you?
I'm doing all right, man. And I saw the show notes for today and jumped on the episode, and I saw that we have something special for the listeners today.
We do. We have a special guest, and I'll start by saying I've often wondered whether direct response copy would work in large, more conventional businesses. And our guest today put my question to rest. Let me introduce you to my friend, Jim Van Wyck. He's been a direct marketer since the early 1990s, and because of businesses he built with direct response copy, he's had 2 7-figure and 1 8-figure exits. Now, in case that jargon doesn't mean anything to you, I'll break it down. A 7-figure exit is where you sell the business for more than $1 million. An 8-figure exit is where you sell the business for more than $10 million. You know, going back through history, Jim opened an indoor tennis club in the early 80s, and he co-founded a bookstore in the early 90s. He had a small chain of weight loss centers in the late 90s in partnership with his wife. And Jim worked closely with a regional insurance brokerage in the 2000s, which was sold to a Fortune 500 company. More recently, he co-founded another insurance agency selling health insurance nationwide, and he was CEO of that business. And he's currently creating Amigo.com, which is a national telemedicine and healthcare services company, and he's co-founder of that. A lot of business to keep track of, I know. But I wanted to give you an idea of how prolific Jim is when it comes to building businesses. And I asked him to come on the show today to talk about the vital role of copy in his businesses. And as you will soon see, the following words have special meaning for our guest today. Copy is powerful. You're responsible for how you use what you hear on this podcast, and most of the time, common sense is all you need. But if you make extreme claims, and if you're writing copy for offers in highly regulated industries like health, finance, or business opportunity, you may want to get a legal review after you write before you start using your copy. My larger clients do this all the time. Now, Jim, first of all, welcome and thanks for being on the show.
I'm glad to be here, David.
Yes. Okay. Well, you just heard our famous disclaimer at the top of the show, which award-winning composer Dr. Doug Pugh actually once set to music. But in a private conversation, you and me, you said that most people have no idea what demands for legal compliance are really like until you've set up an insurance company. Could you talk about that?
Exactly right, David. I'm so glad to be here, first of all. And yes, my resume sounds like I have ADD, but I'm just a repeat offender. I can hold a job for 6 or 7 years and then I change.
All right.
Copy disclosures and lawyers. When we had the weight loss business, we had to be careful not to make outrageous claims, but you could do it with before and after pictures and visually, so it wasn't that big a problem. When I started working with a health insurance brokerage in Los Angeles, which we subsequently sold to a subsidiary of H&R Block, a Fortune 500 company, then the lawyers got in charge. We had to send a review to lawyers because health insurance is a financial product. So the financial lawyer review happened, and then we had to send it over to the HIPAA compliance legal department of a Fortune 500 company looking at the health and those claims. And I'll tell you, lawyers are in the business of sales suppression. So it's a challenge, and you learn how to work with the lawyers and the disclaimers. But I envy people who are only selling supplements, let me tell you.
Do you have any quick tips before we jump into some of your copy?
Yes. Tell stories, which we'll get into later. Tell stories. And when you use facts, as I am doing in my new business, Health Amigo, make sure you can back up the facts, because I guarantee you the department, for example, we got a letter just 2 months ago from the Department of Insurance in Rhode Island saying, where did you make these claims of sales savings, right? And when you get a government letter asking for proof, that is serious. And fortunately, we could just write them back and show them exactly where the claims came from. So document your claims with reputable and findable sources.
Oh, this is horrible. Almost sounds like graduate school. Ugh. Okay. So now that you have some copy, right? Story copy that's going to be used in a video for Health Amigo. I noticed that you are modestly wearing a Health Amigo ball cap.
Yes, and a Buy Health Insurance T-shirt too. So,
All right.
Yeah, I got it covered, baby.
All right. So, could you share you have like a 2-minute story, and then maybe we can talk about it a little bit.
Sure. Okay. So, telling stories does a few things. It allows you to engage your prospect's mind. Telling stories is just one of the most powerful ways you can capture attention, but also you can make your points in a story. So I'm not going to read the exact script, but for Health Amigo, it's not health insurance. It's a healthcare membership that makes healthcare better. Okay, it's non-insurance, and we opened this story with a woman who has a family and she has teenage twins. And in the story, the twins come down with a dry cough and a high fever, and they have body aches. And she doesn't know what to do because California is in lockdown and she can't get to see a doctor.
Yep.
And just imagine the feeling of a mom with two sick kids, and it's locked down and you can't get an appointment for your doctor for months. Health Amigo to the rescue. She can call on telemedicine her doctor, and the doctor talked to the kids, looked them over on the telemedicine, and gave them a treatment plan. And that is in essence the lead of the story. And then the mom talks about other services that Health Amigo gives. And
yeah, I really like that story because it's extremely timely, really.
Yes.
But also, the story is going to help people understand what your service does so much better than the typical narrative, or maybe the cute branding idea that sort of whispers around it and tries to be funny or be romantic. I mean, it's like factual and engaging at the same time. I really love that.
As you may know, I got the structure of that story from story template number 3 from Copywriting Templates by copywriting coach David Garfinkel. I've been using that system as an aid for almost a decade now.
Well,
but there are templates for. I guess my point is there are templates for stories that once you get familiar with it, you can now tell a story, and also your prospects relax. You know, if someone says, "Let me tell you about the features and benefits of product XYZ," that elicits a certain response from a prospect. But if you say to a prospect, "Hi, I'd like to tell you a story," they're going to lean back and, in most cases, lean back and listen.
Great point. So how did you get started with copy? I mean, I was just getting started too in the early 90s. It had something to do with Dan Kennedy and Yellow Pages, right?
It did. I came out of grad school. I was a psychologist for a year. I hated 11 months. I hated every minute of it. And so my buddies and I started an indoor tennis club for which we did not have enough money. It was we were wondering if we were going to pay the rent. And so I was trying to figure out how we could sell this. And so I went to a Dan Kennedy seminar, one of those things where you listen to dozens of speakers for 2 weekends. And then Dan came on last, and he talked, and he said he sold something called the Magnetic Marketing Kit. And it was $300, which in 1986 dollars is quite a bit. I got it, and I got an idea for Yellow Pages ad. And Dan Kennedy said, don't just advertise your business. Give people a reason to phone you. And whether that could be a free report or another reason, give people a reason to phone you. So we put a Yellow Pages ad in the Yellow Pages, which basically no longer exists anymore in printed form.
Right.
And the phone rang. So Dan Kennedy did that, and he got me intrigued. Now, Dan Kennedy did something else that I haven't ever told you about, David, and that is he gave me a whole bunch of other ideas about marketing. And one of them was, and this was for restaurants, he said, you should deal with the concierges in high-end hotels and give them some kind of an offer to use to get people to your restaurant. So I'm scratching my head and I says, well, a tennis club's not a restaurant. But I put together a little one-page sheet for guests. And I said, and this has been really the 2 or 3 of the best hotels in Calgary, Canada. And it was like celebrity tennis experience or something. That's not the exact word, but that was it. But there was an offer for high-end people to come in complete privacy at Foothills Indoor Tennis Club up by the University of Calgary and play tennis in the club with everybody else gone, and they could play indoor tennis with the tennis pro. That was me.
Uh-huh.
And I can't remember the numbers, but it was a lot, like $300 for $300 or $400 for an hour of tennis.
You were trying to pay for that Dan Kennedy magnetic marketing thing, weren't you?
I did many times over. And amazingly, celebrities want privacy. There are tennis buffs who are celebrities, and I played tennis with Kenny Rogers paid me to play tennis with him. Lars Ulrich from Metallica is a big tennis buff, and Barry Gibb. So
wow.
I played with other people, but those guys were paying me big bucks. But that goes back to a thing, a good offer. I invented something, I didn't know if it would work or not, that said you can have privacy, you can have an elite tennis experience, and all you have to do is pay me lots of money.
That's an incredible story, and you've never told me that before, but I'm very impressed. So as long as we're talking about Calgary,
Mm-hmm.
could you relate the story about, I think it's an ironic story, about the aggrieved columnist in the Calgary
Yes.
Herald and your weight loss ad?
Yes. Okay. I used to have weight loss centers, and we run these great big, huge full page ads on page 3 of the city section. So you open the newspaper in the city section on page 3 on the right-hand side, great big giant picture, headline, and so on. And 2 of our ads, which were 2 of the best, one had the headline, "My husband can't keep his hands off of me." And we ran variations of that, or "My husband can't keep his eyes off of me," if an editor got too worried about handsiness. And we had a Zaftig lady lying on her side with earrings in a provocative pose. We also ran another one that said, that had a headline, and it was also quite provocative, a very heavy lady. And the headline said, "He said ... in the pre-headline. And then the headline is, "You are beautiful." And then the subhead was, "I was fat for so long, I thought I'd never hear those words again." I guarantee you, heavy ladies want to read that story, okay?
Sure.
So a national columnist for newspapers all across Canada saw these headlines and wrote an editorial decrying the fact that they were misogynist and fat shaming.
Mhm.
I don't think they were fat shaming. I think they were bold enough to use the words and the concepts that overweight women say themselves. And by the way, both of those headlines came exactly from real people's stories, right? I didn't make up the headline. I just chose it from an interview with a lady. So Catherine Ford writes this article, and just slams those ads. And she actually, best of all, she put a big picture of the headline and the lady at the top of her editorial telling us how terrible it was. And we had the best weeks we ever had, right? Because she's just slamming it and we're getting free nationwide coverage. So that's what happens when you manage to hit it just right.
That's really wild. Anything else quickly you'd like to tell us about copy? Because I want to ask you some other things too.
Great headlines, a good story. New is a magical word. It sounds cliched, but I guarantee you, the word new somewhere prominently will always lift response. Maybe you do it in a different synonym to new. And I think the most important thing is you have to have a great offer. You have to have something that just seems like the person wants to get it and they want to get it from you.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Boy, yeah, that's the best 1-minute masterclass on copywriting I've ever heard. Serious.
Oh, okay.
Very good. Thank you. So let's sort of go a little meta and talk about business builders like yourself who want to write their own copy, even if they're going to hire copywriters, they want to do some of it themselves. What would you suggest from a knowledge and learning perspective? Maybe not a complete course, but as a start. How would you suggest about it?
For sure. If you own a business, you are probably not your customer. You have a bunch of ideas in your head, but you are the business owner. You're not the customer. So I would say the first and most important thing to do is have conversations with your customer without a big agenda, and find out why they joined and what's happening and what problems you're solving or just what's going on. And if you in weight loss, we always were looking for testimonials, but I tried very hard to find our most successful clients and to talk to them in non-agenda. I always asked if I could tape record it. There were cassette recorders in the early days, and asked them, this is in weight loss now, not in the tennis club and not in the bookstore, but and talk to your clients and find out what's going on for them. That's the first thing you would do, right? Is you're not your customer. Look at what great and successful people have done before. Maybe you look at who's the guy who sold blue blockers? Great coffee.
Oh, Joe Sugarman.
Find some Joe Sugarman ads, or find some ads, not necessarily in your industry, and see how they present their product or services, and see if you can learn from them, right? My weight loss ads weren't like normal weight loss ads, right? They were almost always, the most successful ones were stories. They weren't talking about features and benefits and you get this and you get that. So if you can find what other successful people have done, then I think that would help. And then, like I said, the most important, having done that, then find out from your clients what it was about the offer, what it was about the way you presented your product that was appealing to them. Find out if there was anything that that stopped them from calling right away. We used to run these big newspaper ads, and sometimes a client would come in a year later with a year-old ad, and I'd say, "Gee, you've been putting this in your purse for a year. How come you didn't call me?" Right? And you can find out real things, right? Right?
Yeah.
So I would say that would be it. You're not your customer. Use real stories. Find out what's going on with your clients, and then learn from people who have had successes in your industry or other industries. And you're probably better off. If I'd have tried to copy Weight Watcher ads, I don't think we'd have done very well, right?
Mm-hmm.
We copied ads from learned from ads from non-weight loss industries. So you have to test, and I'm sure you've talked about testing before, but when you're running a full page ad in a newspaper in $1990, that was $7,000 a week times 3 cities. This is a big bet, and you want to you really want to learn and adjust as you go along.
That's great advice. But there are a lot of business owners who don't write copy themselves, and so they hire copywriters. What do those business owners? I mean, managing copywriters is an art in itself, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me go back to business builders. And this is another David Garfinkel thing. If you're going to try and write your own copy, hire a copywriting coach who will guide you. Doesn't cost very much. If you're spending $20,000 or $25,000 a week on ads, the incremental cost of a coach will pay for itself the first day. So now, hiring copywriters. Okay, all you copywriters out there, hide your ears, because I'm going to say things that you don't like.
Uh-oh. Trigger alert. Trigger alert.
Trigger alert. Exactly right. I think it's very important that you don't hire any long-term contracts with people and you do small tests with somebody, because some people are really good, some people aren't, and the best people are very expensive, but you don't know if they can do it. So I would say do your best to hire people for very small, a tiny project, see if it works, and then roll it out and work with people there. So don't just make a big commitment to a top flight copywriter like Nathan or David Garfinkel right off the bat. Much as they would want you to, be very slow to hire them and start little and see if they can catch the vibe of the person we've talked about on this, your customers.
Yeah, that's really good. And, that to me sounds like exactly the way you build a business too.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't say, "Oh, I just had this great idea in a dream last night. I'm going to go down to Sand Hill Road, get $5 million of venture capital, and roll this thing out by next week." No, you try something, you test it, you adjust, all those things. And
right.
So, yes, I know, to all the copywriters listening to this, I'm sure that hurt a little bit, but actually it's really in your long-term interest, because once they do find you, they'll never let you go.
That's right. Now, that's right. I didn't say that, but obviously, if you can get someone who is genuinely, by the way, if anybody here is really, by the way, here's an ad. If anybody here is really good at writing and creating lead generation pages, landing pages for health insurance. See, buy health insurance. Our informal slogan is buy health insurance or die. That's an interior slogan.
Yes. I get it.
Or contact us, because we've never found anybody who is truly great at lead generation for health insurance.
So if somebody wanted to contact you, what email address should they use?
They should write to jim@healthamigo.com. That's the new venture, which I want to talk about, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Just a few minutes.
Oh yeah, of course. So as my rather checkered resume suggests, I am a repeat offender when it comes to business.
A serial entrepreneur.
I say repeat offender, but
that's okay.
You got it. So I've been thinking about this for a while. Healthcare in America is a mess. It's too expensive. It's complicated. People don't understand their bills. And now it's even worse, because hospitals are flooded and people are panicking. We don't know what to do. So Health Amigo is going to be a middle place between the consumer and the health care system. What Health Amigo is if you have a gold-plated insurance system, Cadillac plan, you don't need Health Amigo. But if you have high deductibles and high co-pays, and you're worried about the cost of prescription drugs, Health Amigo will give you a free unlimited free video consultations with a board certified doctor within minutes. So if you have symptoms, you can call a doctor. If you need a prescription, we'll help you find the best price. You can save hundreds between. If you need a medical procedure, God forbid, our health navigators can comparison shop. It's very hard for a consumer to do. They can comparison shop between providers in your city and find you the best price with an A-list provider. If you need services, we'll find you discounts. And here's a big one: 80% of medical bills have a mistake in them. This is a study by a hospital administration group, and so we have hired a bill negotiation service that will, over a certain threshold of bills, the little ones nobody will negotiate, but this bill negotiating service has saved over $400 million in medical bills since 2007, saving an average of 42% on every bill they negotiate. And so in the middle place between having a gold-plated plan, you don't need us. If you have a normal healthcare plan, or if you have no insurance at all, I think it could be life-saving. Healthamigo.com. Come visit us, and that is my short little story.
That's great. Healthamigo.com. Now, when we've talked about this before, I've suggested that your competitor was called healthenemigo.com.
Yes. There is. Yes, healthcare companies have a necessarily adversarial position to their clients, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in the weight loss business, you want your clients to lose weight, so they go and tell their friends. If you are in the health insurance business, and I am, but there's an adversarial relationship between the carrier, the insurance company, who wants to keep payouts and premiums low, and the consumer who wants medical services. And so Health Amigo is in that middle spot that is not well served, and Health Amigo does not have an adversarial relationship with our clients. There's no conflict. We want people to get help, to phone the doctor, to get their prescriptions at the best price, and to make sure that their medical bills are correct.
Well, I can see why you've been so successful with your other businesses, and I predict you'll be very successful with this one too. We're running out of time. Nathan, anything you want to add or ask before we go?
I'm going to say this was a fantastic episode. I'm going to edit out the section about not hiring copywriters. Other than that, a fantastic episode.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jim. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
And if you want to get more of your Copywriters Podcast fix, head on over to copywriterspodcast.com. Until then, we'll see you next time.